How y'all doing, family? Hope y'all doing great. So today I want to talk to y'all about something that I think is absolutely important. And it's something that, first of all, this was based on me hearing a few YouTubers say, we the 300, right? But I want to come to y'all and talk about what the real 300 story actually is when it comes to our faith. So I'm not sure, but I believe the 300 is also a movie as well. Y'all can correct me if I'm wrong. And that may be what people are referring to when they say we the 300. But this story that I want to talk about is actually from the Bible, and it's from Judges chapter 6 and 7. And this is when the book of Judges introduces Gideon. You know, in this story, he is called a mighty man of valor. And just like a lot of us, right, we don't always believe that we are capable. We don't always believe that we can do certain things. We don't always believe that there's strength or there's certain capabilities within us. Well, there was an angel that appeared to Gideon and said he was a mighty man of valor. And, you know, God had called him to do something very specific, and he all of a sudden is now giving his excuses as to why he can't do that, right? And so now I'm like, all right, isn't that like us? But the whole point in me talking about this is that the whole 300 concept comes in, where it starts to talk about, I believe it starts in Judges 7, where it starts talking about how Gideon has this huge 30,000 army, right? He has this 30,000 man army, but they're trying to go against the Midianites, who is like, I think 150,000 men deep, right? Then all of a sudden the Lord is like telling Gideon, okay, you got too many men to defeat this army. And he's like, how I got, too many men to defeat this army, right? I only got 30,000 and they got 150,000. How is that too many men? And basically what he's saying is like, if he kept that amount of men and defeated the army, that he would have given the glory to himself and his army instead of the glory to God. And I'm like, oh shoot, that is crazy. So then he starts talking about how, they started kind of, cutting the number of men down and all of that. He basically tells them, like, if anybody's afraid, they basically can walk away. So all the people that were afraid walked away. And so that cut the number down. And then eventually they cut the number down again to where it was only 300. And what happened? Not to spoil the story. I mean, I'm not trying to spoil the story because it's already written. But those 300 men defeat the entire 150,000 army of the Midianites. And basically, what does that tell you? That tells you that sometimes God is going to put you in situations not to try to harm you or not to try to cause you to, not win, right? He's actually trying to set you up to win. But the win is not for you. The win is for his glory. The win could impact somebody else. The win could empower somebody else. The win could help you stand up for somebody else. And he can use you for his glory. See, even though 30,000 is greater than 150,000, 30,000 was still too big, because he didn't want Gideon and his men and his army to get an ego about what they could do in their strength. So that's why he said, we got to cut it down. And it ended up being 300 men. Now, you have to go and calculate. I think you can probably go in your calculator and calculate how many people that is per one person. So 300 to 150,000. Like, you really got to cut down the ratio of that. The odds of that is crazy. There's no way they should have been able to defeat that army. But guess what they did? Because why? They had the Lord on their side, and he was the one getting the glory. See, a lot of times we come up to these battles that we think are not so great, or we think that we're not going to win, or we think it's too hard, or we think that, oh, this is crazy because the odds are stacked against us, because we're thinking about what we could do in our own strength. When the Lord has already said in his word that when we're weak, he is strong. See, he showed himself up as strong in that situation with Gideon, even though they only had 300 men versus the 150,000. And so every time I hear these particular YouTubers say we the 300, and they always chant that, that's what it makes me think of. Because it makes me think of how God can turn impossible situations into situations that you wouldn't believe he could turn around. And, I've had plenty of situations in my own life where that's the case. Like, to be honest, the fact that I'm still here right now is a walking testimony. I should have actually died when my son was born, but God, right? But God, I'll probably share that story another time, but God, and I started thinking back on my life about other situations where, it looked like the odds were stacked up against me, right? I know I said I was going to talk about that situation later, but I'll just briefly tell you right now. When I was pregnant with my son, I had already had 2 miscarriages in between him and my daughter. I already had my daughter. She was, I think she was about a little bit over 2 at the time. And I had already had 2 miscarriages in between her and my son that I was pregnant with at the time. And everything was going good. I just had, normal symptoms, being tired, all that stuff, right? And then I end up catching COVID-19. And I ended up catching COVID-19 during my second trimester with my son. I ended up having an injury to my placenta that almost caused him to basically be gone. And thank God that healed by 3rd trimester. But then when he was born, my son was born with a cord around his neck, and he wasn't breathing for about 10-15 minutes, and they had to take him from us in order for him to get back breathing. And I just remembered it was strange at the time. I didn't understand it in the moment, but I had this peace, and I knew it was like this overwhelming peace from God. And he basically told me, I remember a few months before that, he had told me that my son was going to be okay. So when he was born, I still had peace. And so I had that peace because I knew, like, okay, he's going to be okay, right? So he comes back in 10-15 minutes later, he's okay. But my whole point of the story to share that is the odds of that was not supposed to be. And the reason why I could have died also was because when it was time to give birth, I had breathing trouble, and he also did not come out properly as well. So the way that he had actually came out when he was born was actually very lethal and deadly, but both of us made it. And so that was a situation where all the odds were stacked up against me. I had plenty of times throughout that pregnancy, and even throughout the day he was born, that he could have gone, or I could have gone, or anything could have happened other than that. But you know what? I feel like that was a 300 situation where there was so many odds stacked up against me that it looked like neither one of us was going to make it, or one of us wasn't going to make it, but both of us are still here. My son will be 4 coming in April, and he is just the most vibrant baby. Nothing wrong with him. Very healthy, loving, vibrant, great child, great toddler. And is just one of the smartest kids that I know. And he doesn't even look like what he's been through. And so that's the other thing too. When Gideon and his army came out of this and they defeated the Midianites, they didn't look like what they had been through in that battle. And neither did I in that situation. So when I hear the words, we the 300, that's what it makes me think of. That's what it makes me think of. That Bible story, it makes me think of situations where people have had odds stacked up against them and they have won. They have made it. They have gotten through it. And so this is what I want to tell y'all today, because this video is for my faith pillar. My people of faith, I want to tell y'all, if y'all are in a situation right now where you feel like the odds are stacked up against you, remember this. It's all for the glory of God. It's all for the glory of God. God's going to get his glory some kind of way, and it's all going to work out, and you are going to be A-okay. You're going to be okay. Everything is going to work out fine. May not work out the way that you think it's going to work out, but it's going to work out. You're going to be healed. You're going to walk through whatever it is that you're walking through, whatever the situation that it is. You are going to be A-okay, and the Lord is going to get his glory, and it's all going to be to your benefit. So keep strong, keep your head up. Don't let anything get you down. And if you have to, just start chanting, we the 300, because if he can do it for Gideon in the Bible, and he can do it for me and my son, he can do it for you too.